What is the Volvo T5 engine? In this video, I'm going to explain what the T5 engine is and what makes it different from other 5-cylinder Volvo engines. Now, one of the most common misconceptions that people have is that all Volvo 5-cylinders can just be referred to as T5s. In fact, a lot of the uninitiated or people who are new to Volvos will call their 2.4T, 2.5Ts, or Rs T5s, or say that they have a T5 engine. But calling your 2.5T or 2.4T a T5 is the equivalent of someone calling their Skyline GTT a GTR. You see, T5 is not a universal name that's used to describe Volvo 5-cylinders, even though a lot of the people who are new or uninitiated may think that is so. But rather, T5 is a trim of a Volvo, just like how there's the Nissan Skyline GTT, and then there's the higher trim that is the GTR. The T5 was the highest trim offered by Volvo before they started making the R model. And it's the drivetrain specifically that makes the T5 special. So if you have a lower trim like a 2.4 or 2.5, you are essentially up badging your car by calling it a T5 or claiming that you have a T5 engine if you haven't actually swapped a T5 engine in. All Volvo 5-cylinders belong to the Volvo modular engine family, which consists of 4 cylinders, 5 cylinders, and 6 cylinders. There are many different versions and variants of these engines, both coming in naturally aspirated as well as turbo, as well as diesel variants of these engines. Now, the Volvo modular engine is also referred to as the white block, being an evolution or successor to its previous red block counterpart, which was a family of inline 4 cylinders that featured a cast iron block that was painted red with an aluminum head. Now, the white block modular engine came in 3 different variations. The N, which was the older original design, and then the later RN, which was introduced in 1999, which stood for Revised N engine. Following the RN engines came the RNC, which stood for Revised N Compact engines. These were found in P1 and P3 chassis Volvos, and I'm not going to get into these engines in this video, but basically all the T5 variants were 83mm 2.5 liters. The RN engines are what you find in late model P80 cars as well as all P2 Volvos. It featured changes like stronger connecting rods, a better head design, the introduction of variable valve timing, drive-by-wire throttle body, as well as other little changes that affected the power delivery, the overall power levels, and the reliability of the engines. Now, when it comes to the Volvo 5-cylinder engines, the amount of power that they can handle really depends on if it's an earlier N engine versus a RN engine, as well as if it's an early RN engine versus a little bit of a later developed RN engine. Factor in the bore sizes like the 83mm bore 2.4 and 2.5 engines versus the 81mm bore 2.0, 2.3, and 2.4 liter engines, and there are tons of different variations of engines that can handle differing amounts of power. So what is it about the engines that are found in T5 specifically that makes them so special? Well, when it comes to the P80 and P2 chassis of Volvos that bared the T5 name, all cars had either a 81mm bore block 2.3 liter engine or a 81mm bore block 2.4 liter engine that was a 2.4 due to stroke, not bore size. What makes these engines special and desirable is the fact that they had an 81mm bore, which gave them a stronger block versus most of the other engines in the white block family, which had either a 2.4 liter with an 83mm bore block or a 2.5 liter with an 83mm bore block, which have garnered sort of a reputation when it comes to raising power levels and tuning for sometimes cracking the cylinder walls / the block. T5s, as one might expect, were also known for coming from factory with higher levels of horsepower and torque as opposed to the lower trim variant. They were considered Volvo's high-pressure turbo variant, and this was because they normally had larger fuel injectors versus the lower trims, as well as a larger turbocharger, usually a Mitsubishi TDO 4HL 16T or the later Borg-Warner K24 turbo that the S60R shared with the late 2.4-liter T5 engine. Each individual Volvo engine has its own name, no matter how minute the changes may be between one engine to another. Just like how there's the Nissan RB26 and the Toyota 2JZ and the BMW B58, each individual Volvo engine has its own name designation, although the names tend to be a much longer and not as cool sounding. If we take, for instance, the 2.3-liter 5-cylinder turbo engine that's found in all S60/V70 T5s made from 2001 to 2004, which are the pre-facelift models, it is called the B5234T3. B standing for Benson or benzene, which means gas over in Europe, 5 for 5-cylinder, 3 for 2.3 liters of displacement, 4 for 4 valves per cylinder, T for turbo, and 3 for the third iteration or revision of this engine. And this is the simple recipe that you could use to figure out what engine is what in the Volvo family, because all engines are pretty much named this way. They will be start out with a B or D designating whether they're a gas engine or a diesel engine. You'll have your displacement, your valves, whether it's turbo or whether it's naturally aspirated. For example, instead of a T, if you're dealing with a naturally aspirated engine, it will have an S. Like if we quickly look at the B8444S, B is for benzene or gas, 8 for 8 cylinders, 4 for 4.4 liters of displacement, another 4 for 4 valves per cylinder, and then the S for suction, denoting that it's naturally aspirated. When looking at this engine code, you'll notice that it has an S instead of a T since it's not turbocharged, and it also doesn't have another number after the S because there was only one variation of this engine. Now, the true amount of horsepower and torque that one of the 2.3-liter or 2.4-liter T5 engines could actually handle is still kind of a mystery. And the reason why I say that is because in the past, which is still sort of a problem to this day, there was always problems with tuning and people could not tune the factory ECUs correctly, and it resulted in a lot of premature failures and blown engines. The Volvo P2 community has never had a good foundation with tuners, but there are some good tuners out there who have been around for a little while who are able to tune these ECUs. But there also has been tuners throughout the years who have sold people random off-the-shelf tunes, as well as people who have been destructive towards the community, resulting in a lot of blown engines. With the progression of time, technology, abilities, we've been able to tune the cars better, and we've seen higher horsepower numbers as well as more reliable setup. It also seems like a lot of people haven't been really forthcoming or have a lot of coverage on their builds whenever they do make a lot of horsepower, especially our brothers and sisters across the pond in Europe. You'll see various big horsepower builds on these cars with very scarce information. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these people do have full write-ups on the forums or on websites like Garage T or Garrett, however you would pronounce it. But I feel like there's a lot of hidden potential that have not been discovered, especially with modern advancements in technology. A lot of people also resort to immediately doing a built engine. That way they won't have to even worry about or think about the fact that their engine could possibly blow. The safe number seems to be about 400 wheel horsepower before you might want to consider internals, but there are also people who have pushed their engines to a higher level than that without building it, and they have been fine. What really kills these engines is boost coming on way too soon, too much low-end torque, detonation, too much heat, and too high of intake air temps in general. Vicky 1 is a testament to how much horsepower a stock 2.3-liter block can truly handle. He made 972 horsepower in his Volvo 850 with one that completely spins, that can't even get traction, and he did not reinforce the block with shims or with sleeves. Now, a setup like this using the stock block was very meticulously put together, and it's not something that anyone could just go and slap together. But that's going to be it for this video. If you are new to Volvos or if you learned some insight, please like and share. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something. Take it easy.